ladies and gentlemen, a graduation with no one in the audience. My uncle's voice echoed through the empty hall I'd booked, his camera circling the vacant rows I'd paid for. Each chair sat untouched, a silent reminder of who chose not to be there. I stood beneath the harsh, unforgiving lights, pretending the moments still held meaning. Then my phone vibrated, the first of many messages that would shatter the illusion. One by one, they arrived, each sharper than the last. People assumed the worst part was standing alone in that room. They're wrong. The real betrayal came after I smiled. My name is Ye. I've always been the reliable one, the daughter who double-checks every lock, the employee who color-codes deadlines, the sister who answers every quick question call without complaint. People call me calm. But calm is just the mask you learn to wear when you're constantly patching holes nobody else notices. My family likes to claim we're close. What they mean is I stay close enough to pick up the pieces they drop. Mom, Elaine, calls it thoughtfulness. Dad, Marcus, calls it practicality. Leo, my younger brother, calls it convenience. From the outside, we look like a picture-perfect family in holiday snapshots, smiling on cue. But even as a child, I learned to step aside. The spotlight was always on Leo, the shining one, while I held up the scaffolding behind him. That pattern never changed. While Leo flitted between hobbies and short-lived jobs, I juggled a full-time office role and part-time work to cover my bills, and often theirs. Every attempt to step back was met with gentle guilt from Mom, "Your brother's had a rough year," or "You're so strong, sweetie." Strength, in our house, meant carrying more than your share without flinching. I hoped my graduation would be different. It wasn't a grand ceremony, but it mattered. I'd burned the midnight oil, stretched myself thin, done everything to keep the world around me running smoothly. When my family promised they'd celebrate with me, I believed them. I even rented a modest hall, just enough space for photos, coffee, and a few smiles. On the morning of the ceremony, I smoothed my gown over the bed, imagining their faces, Leo's teasing, maybe even a fleeting moment of acknowledgement. I set up chairs, straightened banners, hummed to stave off the nerves crawling under my skin. Minutes passed. The room stayed empty. Hope began to crack. My phone stayed silent. The banner sagged. A custodian offered a polite congratulations that felt both kind and crushing. I kept glancing at the door, expecting the people I loved most to walk through it. They never did. Then the messages arrived. "Mom, we're at your brother's housewarming. Don't be salty. Love you." I read it twice, searching for softness that wasn't there. Then Dad, catering's on your card. Just $5,600. I forgot mine. It hit me, the absence wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. They could celebrate Leo and shift a bill my size onto me without hesitation. The room tilted. I gripped the cold metal of a folding chair, my fingers hovering over my phone. Protest or vanish? Vanish won. A thumbs up was sent, the same one I'd used for years to keep the peace. The hall felt smaller. The air heavier. And every buried memory resurfaced, the temporary emergency payments that never ended, the textbooks I bought Leo but he never opened, Dad's yearly, "I got this," that always fell short. Every sacrifice, every swallowed word, lined up inside me like quiet rebellion. My uncle tapped my arm. "Keep filming, or..." I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "It's fine." He nodded, leaving. The lights hummed, indifferent. I sat on the edge of the stage, gown pooling around my knees, trying to understand why this hurt more than all the others combined. Perhaps it was hope. Perhaps it was believing, deep down, that finishing this program would finally earn me a seat at the same table. A table where Leo had always been celebrated. But as I stared at that empty room, a sharp truth cut through me: hope had blinded me into complicity. By the time I left the hall, the ache had cooled, not into anger, not yet, but into a clarity I'd never allowed myself before. Something inside me had shifted. I didn't know then that this small fracture would become the fault line that changed everything. The walk home felt unusually long. Even familiar streets looked different under the warm spring sun, filled with people carrying flowers, taking selfies for their own graduations. I kept my eyes forward, afraid that looking too closely at someone else's joy might crack what little composure I had left. Stepping into my apartment, the silence hit like a second betrayal. I draped my gown over a chair and just stood, unsure how to hold my hands, my breath, or myself. This day had been meant to mark a beginning. Instead, it reflected everything I'd been pretending not to notice. My phone buzzed again. Leo had posted another video from his housewarming, friends laughing under string lights, tables of catered food I had apparently paid for. The caption read, "Family first," with a smirking emoji. Each word hollowed me out. I opened my planner, the one I used to color code deadlines, shifts, and obligations, and pulled out the stack of bills tucked into its back pocket. Payments highlighted, transfers dated, scribbled notes promising repayment that never came. Seeing it all spread across the table was like tracing a map of my life. Every time I put their needs above my own, every erasure of myself marked clearly in ink. I stacked the receipts, statements, and notes across the surface. The table disappeared beneath the weight of years I hadn't realized I'd carried alone. The pattern was undeniable now: favors disguised as love, sacrifices expected the moment I proved I could bear the burden. My phone buzzed once more. I picked it up, not to respond, just to hear the vibration, a reminder they could reach me whenever, while I had never been allowed to reach back. I dialed Aunt Ruth. She answered immediately. "Are you home?" she asked, voice already full of knowing. "Yes, did something happen?" I exhaled slowly. "It's not one thing. It's everything." Within 20 minutes, she arrived, carrying groceries and the quiet strength of someone who'd weathered her own storms. She didn't gasp at the spread of bills or notes. She just nodded, confirming what she had long suspected. "They've been taking advantage of you," she said, calmly. Not accusation, liberation. We spent hours poring over numbers, messages, and moments leading to this day. Page by page, the fog lifted. This wasn't love. This wasn't protection. Somewhere amid the highlighted dates and hollow apologies, a new understanding took root: if they could treat me like a resource, I could treat the truth as my boundary. By the time Aunt Ruth left, I had a plan, not revenge, but a firm line drawn for the first time in my life. The next morning, the city felt unusually still, as if the air was holding its breath for me. I had spent the night organizing everything: copies of payments, summaries of transfers, records of the years I'd carried more than my share. Not every detail, just enough to make the point unmistakable. Each folder went into a simple shipping box. Clean. Precise. Honest. Honesty, I realized, carries more weight than anger. On top of every stack, I placed a note: from today forward, I pay only for myself. Simple. Non-negotiable. My handwriting had never felt steadier. When the courier arrived, I almost expected questions. He didn't ask. He scanned the labels, Leo's address, and said, "They'll get these within the hour." Perfect. I answered calmly, surprising even myself. I had imagined arguments, pleas, or denials. What I hadn't expected was how empty my apartment would feel afterward. For the first time, silence didn't feel like abandonment, it felt like control. An hour later, delivered. Then quiet. 5 minutes. 10. I stared at the screen, almost laughing at my own nerves. I hadn't lied. I hadn't lashed out. I had only handed them the truth their own choices had built. Then the storm arrived, not as a call, but a video. Someone had filmed Leo cutting open the largest box with a kitchen knife, grinning as if it were a grand gift. People around him cheered, drinks raised, music blasting in the background. Warm lights, elegant decorations, all paid for by someone who wasn't even invited. Leo lifted the flaps, glimpsed the stacks of documents, saw his name repeated across page after page. His smile wavered, faltered, then vanished. Someone off camera whispered, "Dude, what is all that?" Leo didn't answer. He rifled through the papers, finally reaching the note I'd placed on top. I watched him read it, jaw tightening, fingers gripping the edge. The camera shook, then cut. Immediately, my phone exploded. Mom, Dad, Leo, each calling, then calling again. I didn't answer. Messages streamed in. Mom, what is this? Explain yourself now. Dad, call me. This is serious. Leo, are you joking? You're embarrassing us. Us? An ironic choice of pronoun, from someone who never shared the weight. I let it buzz until only the voicemail icon blinked. Then I answered the call I expected, Mom, using Dad's phone once she realized I'd muted hers. ISA, she snapped, what did you send to Leo's house? Records. Just records. You're ruining his celebration. People are asking questions. It's humiliating for, who exactly? For us, she shot back. You blindsided your family on a special day. I almost laughed. A special day? The one you all attended instead of mine? Silence, not understanding, just regrouping. You didn't need a show, she said finally. You could have spoken privately. I've tried privately, I said. For years. Dad seized the line. Ella, listen. This is not adult behavior. You're being emotional. Emotional? Of course. My voice stayed calm. You charged over $5,000 to my card yesterday without asking. I forgot mine, he said, as if that excused everything. That's not an excuse, I said softly. It's a pattern. A pause. His voice dropped. So this is punishment for us not going to your graduation? No, I replied. This is accountability, for everything before that, everything you pretended I didn't notice. I could almost hear him blinking, processing the unfamiliar feeling of losing control. Return our boxes, he demanded. No, I said firmly. I'm drawing a boundary. Mom's voice trembled, sharp. After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us? And what exactly have you done for me? I asked, quietly, clearly. Her silence said it all. Leo finally called on a different line. What's wrong with you? He spat. Nothing, I said. For the first time, nothing was wrong with me. You're making me look bad. You did that yourself, he muttered. This isn't petty. It's documentation, I said. I'm done sacrificing myself for your comfort. I hung up, not angrily, not triumphantly, just decisively. The phone buzzed again. Voicemails this time. Fast, overlapping, urgent. None were apologies, only demands. I set the phone face down and let it ring. The next morning, a single message to the family group chat, I will not pay for anyone's expenses again. My accounts are closed to you. All future charges will be disputed. Then I blocked Leo, muted my parents, and sat in the soft light of my apartment. Silence settled differently now, it didn't feel like rejection. It felt like reclaiming myself. Days passed strangely light, as if someone had lifted a weight from my chest. My phone still buzzed with familiar numbers, but I owed no answers. I let the noise fade, like a storm drifting harmlessly across the horizon. I began living in ways I denied myself, slow morning walks without checking notifications, coffee bought without calculating family emergencies, a bank app finally simple, clean, mine. Dad sent a partial repayment, labeled, a start. The old me might have accepted it to keep peace. Instead, I mailed it back with a note, payments must match what's owed, not what's convenient. Financial clarity became emotional clarity. Mom left a voicemail, oscillating between guilt and nostalgia, but I recognized the pattern, a story meant to pull me back into a role I had outgrown. I saved it, not for sentiment, but as proof of why the boundary had to exist. And quietly, amid it all, something unexpected, pride. Not for confrontation, but for enduring all the years that led here. Choosing myself didn't feel like rebellion. It felt like finally speaking the truth aloud. My family may never understand, but I am standing on the right side of this boundary, breathing easier than I have in years. If any part of my story resonates with you, share it below. For more stories like this, subscribe, you won't want to miss the next.